Hello, and welcome to this presentation by Susana Martín Belmonte on public spending in local currencies, hosted by the Circular Trade Analytics Group. My name is Tom, and I'll be hosting this event. This event is the third this year in a series organised by the Circular Trade Analytics Group. The group was founded as a forum to explore how suitably designed exchange systems, such as credit clearing, mutual credit, local currencies, and voucher systems, can support the circular financial flows that are necessary to underpin the material circular economy. However, we recently decided to expand our activities, and so as well as hosting events like this one more frequently, we will also be working towards supporting on-the-ground implementations of such systems, building our engagement with like-minded groups, and otherwise reaching out to wider audiences. We have an excellent coordination team representing a variety of projects and research interests who will be initiating these developments in the new year. If you wish to get involved in any way at all, then please do send me a message in the chat with your email and some details about your activities and interests. I'll now spend a few minutes introducing today's speaker, Susana Martín Belmonte. Susana is an economist, researcher, author, and activist. She began her professional career in foreign trade and in 2000 switched to online business, but also has a long-standing commitment to monetary reform, monetary and financial innovation, and complementary and alternative currencies. Her work includes independent research on the true nature of the monetary and financial system and its impact on the real economy, on environmental sustainability, and on income and wealth inequality. She launched the REC citizen currency in the city of Barcelona under the European Union's Biminecome project, and went on to co-found the G-Merits Consortium, which won the European Commission's Blockchain for Social Good Prize, with a proposal to imagine a better way to create and distribute anti-rival assets. Susana has taught on e-commerce and complementary currencies on several master's programs, and is the author of a variety of publications and reports in these fields, many of which have been the subject of media coverage. She is currently the scientific coordinator of the European MedTown project, and I'm delighted that she's here to share her expertise and experience with us. Susana has requested that those of you who are comfortable with it to please keep your cameras on so that she can see some friendly faces while speaking. Finally, please put your questions in the chat and I'll put them to Susana during the 15-minute Q&A. We will also be keeping the Zoom room open for free-form post-event discussion. Over to you, Susana.
Oh, thank you very much, Tom. Well, I'm very, very glad to be here with all of you today. Thank you very much for organizing this event to the Circular Trade Analytics Group, and to Tom, of course, and Tony that will be hosting the event. I'm going to share the screen later on because I'd like to speak with you first to give a little bit of context of this research that I'm going to present today. This pilot project has been evaluated in a research that we have published in the Journal of Financial Research with my co-authors, Jordi Puig, Mercè, Roca, and Marta Segura, from the University Pompeu Fabra. And the original motivation of doing both the pilot and the research is to test different monetary designs other than the current conventional monetary design, which, as many of you know, is very seldom recognized as a monetary design at all. As in regards to our monetary system, it is normally considered that what we have is just the way things are, and it's just a part of the world. It's not a human construct that might be designed differently. Of course, the reason for trying new monetary design is the fact that from 2008 crisis, it can no longer be denied that the banking system, which is the most important part of the monetary system, the conventional monetary system, is causing really serious problems, at least creating huge inefficiency, inequalities, and instability, and probably much more than that. The formula of creating money out of thin air is nevertheless an important breakthrough. Banks have been doing this in and out for a long time, and steadily since 1971, when Bretton Woods Agreement was broken by the USA, and the dollar was no longer backed with gold. And this is important because money issuance, in the end, has always been limited by a set of rules established by human beings. Money is a human construct. Even when the rule was that only the possession of gold could allow you to issue money, this was also a rule established by human beings. So I consider a breakthrough that the blindness of gold was overcome, that the blindness that gold was needed to carry out any kind of exchange between human beings was very good that it was overcome. So these new sets of rules that we can imagine for the creation of money is of course has to have some prerequisites, has to work in a way. So the monetary system is functional, and one of the main features of the monetary system is the trust. So the obvious first intent that we may do in trying to set up a different set of rules is to go for mutual credit systems in which the creation of trust is something that grows out of the community and is based on the trust that members have in each other. And of course, we've learned a lot about this kind of systems, and what we have learned is very valuable. We know there are clear examples in which they work. We also know that not all the contexts are adequate for them to work, and that the speed of adoption of this kind of systems is very slow. They're very difficult to scale up. And in my view, and this is part of what motivated this, both the pilot and the research I'm going to present today, a way of increasing the adoption of a currency is to underpin the institutional aspects of the currency. So I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. This is, can you see? All right. So this is the paper that we published. It's available. You have the link in the invitation in the meetup group to this event. And so, as I was saying, one of the main motivations of both the pilot and the research is how we could reinforce the institutional aspects of our complementary currency. So there are three ways in which we did this. First of all, we backed the currency with legal tender. So it is what we call a local currency, although we call it citizen currency, because it's also the product of co-production with the public authorities. So there are some aspects of it that can allows us to call it also citizen currency. There is a second aspect that has to do with the regulation. The currency is backed with funds that are in a regulated entity, in a payment institution, taking advantage of the Payment Service Directive 2 that the European Union put in place the last decade, and e-money directives. Also, these new regulations are allowing us to work with institutions that are not banks, but they are legally entitled to carry out payments. So in a way, this currency is partly, is still a virtual currency, is unregulated, but it is backed with funds that in a regulated entity. So that's also a part of the, another institutional aspect of this of this currency. And the third is that the currency channels public funds. So we've worked in association with the Barcelona City Council, which was the entity, the public entity, making these payments. In a way, what we try to do is to use a citizen currency as a public policy tool. And in this case, what we did is to see what happens when we provide cash assistance in a currency, in a local currency, instead of in the legal tender. So the public spending that we're talking about is a payment that the city of Barcelona carried out for this purpose, to do cash assistance for people in risk of poverty. The idea is also to see if there are possibilities to foster a local regenerative economic development, paying subsidies in this digital means of payment, this alternative currency. So if we can change the economic system, in a way, influence the economic system by making this payment in a local currency, and reinforce the local economy this way. And as I said, this is as a result of a public service in co-production with a public entity and an organization of the civil society. So the type of company, of enterprise that joined the system was small and medium enterprises. This is very important because although we started with around 80 small and medium enterprises, we ended up with 160, but everybody was allowed to get into the system, although all of them were small and medium enterprises, including 2 wholesalers. And this is very important for the results and why we thought that this regenerative local development can be pushed through a local currency. Because what happens, and this is the results of a study that my colleagues did in Santa Coloma de Gramenet. This is a village near Barcelona. And what happens is that when you spend €1 in a local company, in a local enterprise, 0.45 euros stay in the local economy. It is re-spent in the local economy. If you spend this euro in a corporative chain, 0.15 euros stay in the local economy, much less. And if you spend it in an online shop, almost nothing stays. So this is the basis to think that this kind of expenditure in local enterprises, because the local currency is a guarantee that this expenditure is going to happen in the local economy. Well, this is one of the reasons why, or the basis to understand this could foster a regenerative local development. So speaking about the methodology, what we did is to see what was happening with this. There was 1,000 families that were receiving a guaranteed minimum income from the Council of Barcelona, and about half of them had the condition to spend 25% in the local currency. So whatever they received from the city council, and the city council was complementing their regular income. So there was a whole matrix of information about their income. This is something that was a collaboration between the tax authority and the social security authority, etc. And with this information, the the city council complemented the income of these 1,000 families in risk of poverty with whatever it was needed to reach a minimum every month. And there was also, it was combined, this project was called BEM income, and it was combined with other active policies. So the idea is that when with this, what happens with this public expenditure, how when it is channeled through the local currency. So the conditions that we were testing was that, first of all, the cash transfer in the local currency will cover the initial intention of the transfer to help cover or alleviate the needs of the beneficiary, of course. So we wanted to test if this was true. The second condition that we wanted to check is if the cash transfer should be an additional monetary injection that is sufficient to make a difference in the local economy. So this is something that I'll tell you later how we tested it. And the third condition is that the money injected in this way remains local to a greater extent than under other previous circumstances. So these were the three things that we wanted to check if they happened or not in our case. This comes, of course, from the literature that we review in the background section about regenerative local development that you can read in the paper. And of course, this is in line with the humanitarian development nexus, because that the United Nations is pushing forward, because the idea is to connect humanitarian aid with development aid. So be able to use the funds in a way that fulfills the two targets. About the indicators that we use the usability of the local currency, if people really can use it, if they, just because it's a digital currency, people need a device to use it. We established an app, a payment app that I'll show you later. We also check, another indicator is the amount of cash perceived by the affiliated businesses, the satisfaction of the participant business, the local multiplier of public spending of the REC, the recirculation rate of the currency, meaning how much of the income in REC. By the way, REC is real economic currency in English, also recurso económico ciudadano in Spanish, economic resource, citizen economic resource. So that's the idea. So the second, the next indicator is the recirculation, how much of the income in REC is re-spent in REC, in the local economy, and the velocity of circulation. Okay, so that's the indicators that we checked and analyzed. The data that we used was, of course, the transaction data of the 25% of this municipal inclusion subsidy, the guaranteed minimum income provided to the beneficiaries in the REC currency. So the system with the data of transaction was perfect. We had all of them and we could analyze them. We also had two surveys that we invited the beneficiaries and the participants to fill out, and the surveys were done separately to the shops, to the shop owners, and to the beneficiaries in two different moments. One was when it was the experience had just begun, like 3 months after it began, and then almost at the end. So, and the experience lasted 13 months, a little bit more than a year. So that was the methodology. And the results are in the screen. So the result is that these three conditions were fulfilled to a relatively high extent in all the cases. The first one, cash transfer in the local currency, are carried out in a way that fulfills the initial intention of the transfer to help cover or alleviate the needs of the beneficiary. We checked the beneficiary satisfaction survey, and 92% of the beneficiaries were satisfied or very satisfied with the usability and the fact that they received this 25% of this income in the local currency instead of legal tender. The second condition was that cash transfer is an additional monetary injection to the local economy that is sufficiently big to make a difference. And what we checked is actually the income in RECs for the businesses, and this was about a little bit more than 5,500 RECs in the period, in a little bit more than a year. And with the satisfaction survey to the businesses, we knew that 88% of affiliated businesses were satisfied or very satisfied with the policy, with the initiative. Then we have the third condition, which is that money should remain locally to a greater extent than under previous circumstances. So what we saw is that the local multiplier of public spending was bigger than in the case of the euro in Spain. So and the second there's a second indicator, which is the recirculation rate. The recirculation rate. That was an average, well, it started in maybe 10% and no, not 10%, sorry. It started very low at 0, and then it increased month by month on average to the 24%, and it reached 33% at some point. So the recirculation rate was increasing, as far as, as the system was getting to be known better in the community, etc. No? And the circulation, the velocity was very, very stable at around 5.8 most of the time. So, but of course, much higher than the euro velocity, which is really low, and also the dollar velocity in general are very, very low. So in this case, the velocity was very constant and quite high at about 5 or 6. So as I said, the currency was used in the markets, like in this case, and it was used to pay the local businesses for the day-to-day purchases for basic needs. This is in this case the subsidy was given to the beneficiaries to cover basic needs. So it was used on a daily basis, and this is a bit how was by reading QR codes and introducing the PIN code that you just was able to use it. Another fact, other basic facts that are important to note is that So this all started to work in September 2008. Is managed by a cooperative association, although it is actually, there's an NGO that launched it, for which I was working at the time. And it works in collaboration with the City Council of Barcelona, as I said. And it was financed by the European BEM Income Project, a basic income pilot project to fight poverty and inequality and spread the public money in the local economy. So another thing that is important, as I was saying, to mention is that the currency belongs to a consortium. So we created this consortium with other two projects of currency projects, one in Milan and two in Milan, and another and two universities, and one in Helsinki in Finland, and another one in Milan, and with this consortium won the Blockchain for Social Good European Union Prize in financial inclusion. So this is something that this is basically what we did. We can expand on other aspects of the research or whatever you may be interested in. But for me, this kind of institutional, so for me, what's next? The idea behind these experiences is to see if the institutionalization, these aspects of institutionalization are leading or not to a wide adoption of this kind of alternative currencies. Like trying to transform the monetary and financial system by creating alternatives and moving more and more economic activity to these other alternative economic circuits. In my view, also, the role of central bank digital currencies may be very important to evolve, to make, there is a point in which these kind of local currencies that are innovative, of course, thanks to the technology, may merge or support or be mutually supported with the newly created, but they're on the process of being created central bank digital currencies. This is something we may talk about because actually this is one of the things that are, in my view, are more interesting because it will be another step in the institutionalization of alternative currencies. And of course, the possibility to complement these local currencies, local public currencies, with other liquidity saving mechanisms. We have in the room Thomas Fleischmann, who is experienced in systems to compensation systems, liquidity saving mechanisms, and also mutual credit systems. The REC was the local currency of Barcelona. We made an effort to make it a currency that has a backing in the legal tender and with funds of a payment institution, but at the same time is a not regulated currency. And this was because we wanted to be able to do something in mutual credit as well. This is something that we haven't done yet. The REC system is still backed 100%, but it's something that was this legal form, which is quite unusual. I think is probably the only local currency that has this legal form of being a virtual currency, but backed with funds in a payment institution that is regulated. We wanted to get to, well, actually we presented this monetary design to the Bank of Spain, to the central bank in our country, because, well, we were working with the Barcelona City Council, and we wanted to make absolutely sure that there was not going to be any problem from the legal point of view. And our legal advisors help us to present this model, and it was, well, it was presented. They told us that they would not say if it was right or wrong, because they were just observing these new realities of alternative currencies and financial innovations. But we were presenting it, and so this is something that we tried, because, as I said, we wanted to keep the door open to make the REC something different from a local currency. We don't know exactly what will happen. This is not so easy to change this kind of design, but of course, there's always the option to use the same device, the same app that you use for the local currency. You can use it for other kind of currencies, and this is something that is really a possibility to maybe another possibility is to keep the currency as it is right now, but to add other currencies to the same wallet. So these are a little bit the possibilities that I think our experience led to, and well, this is basically what I wanted to present to you. Thank you very much, and I would love to, to have any to answer any questions that you may have, or engage in any kind of discussion like the ones I just presented, or any other one.
Thank you very much, Susana, for a really engaging presentation. So we'll now move on to the Q&A part of the session. And if you do have any further questions which occur to you during this, of course, please do continue to put them into the chat. Our first question is from Marcus Petts, who was asking what were the costs of running the scheme?
Okay, the scheme, well, there are two very different type of cost. Of course, there's the creation cost of the currency, and we had a lot of well, we had to take care of the legal aspects, the technological aspects, etc., and especially the engagement with the local authority. The engagement with the Barcelona City Council was very expensive. We needed to change the design several times because the legal services of the Barcelona City Council didn't want to work with us in the beginning, so we had to change it. So we had to work several times doing the same thing just to adapt. So all in all, what it costed, our budget in the European project that funded us was 800,000 euros, and we distributed around the same amount, 800,000 euros. Yeah, that's the cost. It's pretty high, but they was involving the creation of the currency mainly, more than the maintenance.
Thank you. The next question is from Paul Zarembecker, and he was asking if there were a wide distribution of projects similar to this one throughout a country, would you expect greater or lesser results compared to the subject of this study, where it was looking at a single project within an isolated geographical region?
Yeah, so the idea, well, I have to say, and this is there are other projects like this in Spain. There are two more projects that do the same, more or less, with different legal forms, because the legal forms of this kind of devices are different. I mean, there are different options, and still is not very clear which one is the best. So there is another currency in the province of Seville, in the outskirts of Seville, called San Juan de Alfarache, and this is another currency that that distributes public funds in local currency, and the other one is in Santa Coloma de Gramenet. It's a town near Barcelona in the same province, but has a different currency, and it was established. I think it was launched in 2016, so it's slightly before the REC. It was when the REC project started, but not. It wasn't launched until 2 years later. And Santa Coloma de Gramenet is distributing funds, but not for subsidies of basic goods. Is not it, the funds that distributed started with cultural activities. So the city council was distributing funds for sports associations and other cultural activities, and this is the funds that were paid in the local currency of Santa Coloma de Gramenet, the grama. So but it is very important also to mention that the whole country of Korea, South Korea, they have a whole public policy in place to distribute funds in local currency, and this is really huge. I mean, South Korea, well, first of all, they started with another way of doing, issuing this kind of currencies. It was a way that actually now the REC is has after the first part of the project finished, which is what I have explained, this first part of the project. The second part started, and this is a moment in which the citizens would just change their currency for the REC to spend locally, so to spend in the local businesses. But this was encouraged by a bonification that the city council was giving them. So there was a rebate. So they would change 100 euros and they would spend it in the local economy, and then they would get this rebate that was pretty high. That was about 15%. So they would be able to spend again in the local economy. And the currency in Korea, these currencies was given as sort of basic income, they say. It's a very particular basic income because it's not a lot of money. It's around $1,000, I think, per year for people of the age of 24. So it's like a youth basic income. And this was given initially to these young people, and also there was this kind of bonifications for any people who wanted to spend to change to the local currency to spend it in the local economy. They had these bonifications as well. But when the COVID crisis hit, they made a lot of their program of recovery was very, very based on the local currency. So they provided subsidies in local currency, and the results were very, very good, as I have understood from their reports. So this is something that I can circulate in the group for the reference of the group, because it's it's very interesting, the results that they got. Yeah, so I think that to answer this question, yeah, I hope there are more and more. I mean, for now in Spain, there are other like 4 or 5 other cities, as far as I know, that are right now working on their own project to put in place a local currency of this type to issue to encourage local spending. Yeah.
Thank you. And there are 2 questions here which I think follow on really well from that. One from Bill Green and one from Thomas Greco. First of all, Thomas Greco was asking whether the digital wallet you used is available for others to use, and Dill was asking whether such projects could reduce their vulnerability to local policy shifts.
Okay. Yeah, regarding Thomas Greco question. By the way, hello. Nice to have you here as well. I believe that this year the technology of the REC will be available in open source. This is something that was a compromise on the blockchain for social good price. So yes, it's going to be available, not now because there was a need, they needed to change, the developers needed to change some things and update some things, but it will be available in this year, in 2022. And regarding the vulnerability to the changes in the local politics, well, I think that a very good. I mean, there was something very, very. I think there are 2 aspects here. One of them is that if the best is to get the local, the politics of the town to agree on the project. If they agree, it's quite easy to keep it once it's in place. And the other question that is absolutely key, but of course not always is possible. In our case, it wasn't possible. Actually, it was an initiative of the government and other groups in the city council didn't agree on the initiative. But another thing that is very important, and that it protects the project from changes in the politics, is the role of civil society organizations that, for instance, if the association of shops, of local businesses is backing the project, it's very strange, because normally these initiatives come more from the left wing parties. So, but if the shop associations, the local business association backs the project, this is normally something that no political party wants to be against. This kind of associations, this kind of stakeholder. So this is our experience. I mean, I think that these are the 2 keys. Try to go for a majority, for a unanimity of the political groups, and also try get on board the stakeholders of the city that really nobody wants to be against them.
Thank you. We have two questions from Leanne Usher, who is asking, first of all, how do you measure the euro velocity, but also how did you keep track of the stock of euros and REC within the project, and do you have time series data on that?
Oh yeah, of course. How do we measure the velocity? Okay, what we did is to annualize the transactions. So you take into account all the transactions, excluding the ones that create the currency and the ones that the money in and the money out. Okay, these are not counted. All the other transactions that are for trading of goods and services, you count them, and then you divide by the average monetary mass that you have in the period, and then you annualize it. Okay, that's what I was checking. I don't know. You probably are familiar with the work of Jim Stoller. He measured the velocity of circulation of several complementary currencies in a paper that is available. I think he published this in 2015, and we checked with him his methods and used basically the same. I mean, the formula, the original formula is GDP divided by money supply. So that's in the macro level, but of course we are in the micro level. Okay, we are in the micro level, and this of course transactions, addition of the sum of all transactions is not GDP. We should be discounting. It's only should be final goods and services, what we count in the GDP. So, and we had some wholesalers in the network, so that would be a duplication of transactions. So, it's not totally accurate, but is comparable with other measurements of other complementary currencies that have been done before. So. Of course, there's a lot of research to be done to make it to fine tune this kind of calculations. And regarding the funds in euros, well, this is a system that the payment institution provides us with a system. Maybe I should explain a bit more how we use this payment institution. The REC system was a system in which everybody who was changing into RECs with euros, they were charged in their credit card for the amount. And this amount in euros was going automatically to one of the points of exchange of the network, which is one of the businesses of the network. This business automatically was getting a loan in RECs from the managing authority of the REC, and was transferring these RECs to the REC account of the person who was exchanging. So the person who was exchanging got charged in this credit card. The euros were going to the account of the business in the payment institution, and the RECs were coming from the managing entity of the REC to the business, and from the business to the person who exchanged. This is something that, so basically the managing authority was lending the RECs to the business, and the business was selling the RECs to the user. When the business wants to get the euros, they only have to provide the RECs. So first, they need to cash the RECs as a payment for goods and services. And when they do this, then they are able to go to the managing authority, and the managing authority releases the euros that are already in the account of the business, but he is not able to use them until he gives back the loan of RECs. Of course, these loans are interest-free, totally. But this is the way in which, well, with this design, the REC was not electronic money according to regulation. This was the reason we did it this way, is because this way the REC wouldn't be electronic money, and we shouldn't. I mean, otherwise we would have needed an e-money institution to provide for the REC, and the REC would be electronic money and would be euros and not a virtual currency. So probably for what we've done, it would have been the same. We could have been electronic money. I mean, the REC could have been electronic money, euros, and but ring-fenced euros in a way. So euros that are in a closed environment, and that we can check how it's that all the transactions are let's say are monitorized, and then we can encourage the local spending of these euros, of these funds. So as I said, so it could have been the same for what we've done so far, but the idea was to keep the door open to do something different, maybe in the future. So that was the intention, but at the same time to keep the same reliability that that you may have with a payment institution or with an e-money institution. So that was a little bit what we tried.
Thank you. On the subject of local trade, one of the things I noticed from the paper was that the participant businesses' perceptions of local trade, their perceptions of an increase in local trade went from 46% to 65% over the course of the study period. And of course, as we know from Tomasz Fleischmann's work, intertrade creates an opportunity for netting off of obligations. Do you have a sense of the potential impact of applying such liquidity-saving mechanisms within the existing REC network?
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, we explore this thoroughly during the project. One of the things we did in the people of the managing authority of the REC was to encourage the local spending of the RECs. So we visited the businesses and asked them about their suppliers. So we could encourage them to invite their suppliers. And it was the message was clearly understood. They clearly understood that it was very beneficial for them that they spend in RECs instead of changing to their euros, because they understood that if they spent in RECs, they were much more likely to receive that REC back in as a new sale, as a new income for them, that if they change back to the euros. So they actually reacted very well. They were very they were skeptical at the first moment. They didn't think there's a big effort from local authorities in trying to help businesses, but actually it's not so easy to help businesses. So they were skeptical at the beginning, and as I said, we started with 80 local businesses and we went up to 160. So we doubled the number of businesses that were in the project. because they increasingly realized that it was a good solution. So they were in the beginning they were skeptical, and then they started to realize that that it was working for them. So yeah, that's why the perception of the businesses increased, of that it was good for the local businesses. There's something they realized in the process.
Thanks. I also noticed from the paper that the food sector was very strongly represented within the businesses. Was that something you expected, or was it a deliberate design? And do you know anything which could explain, in terms of the features of the food sector?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, totally. It's because the subsidies were meant to be for basic goods and services. So staples, you say in English? Yeah, I think so. So of course, this is the first thing you needed to buy with the currency. So we made sure that there was enough offer in all the neighborhoods. There were 10 neighborhoods, and all the beneficiaries were distributed in these 10 neighborhoods, and they needed to have access to these goods. So the first thing we tried is to get these businesses on board, enough of them for everybody to have offer in their neighborhood of goods and services that are basic needs, like food. There was all kind of businesses were invited, in fact, but we were looking for the recirculation of the currency, and this recirculation means that the businesses should spend the currency themselves, and they of course would spend anything in anything, not in basic needs, but anything, even there were dentists, there were jewelries, there were everything, because but of course, yeah, they were very strongly represented. The food sector was very, very represented. I think I didn't answer one of the questions that you made before, Tom. Sorry, I don't remember.
That's okay. I think we've just got time for two final questions, both of which are returning to the political aspect of it. Thomas Greco was asking whether any changes were demanded or imposed by the municipal authorities in order to make the currency acceptable to them. And Esther Baranaga is asking whether the city accepted the REC in payment of public goods and local taxes.
Yeah. So, okay. The changes was that, we wanted the city council to be part of the system. So we wanted them to have an account in euros in the payment institution that we were working with. That would have made it much more easy for them to pay the beneficiaries directly. So we wouldn't have needed the structure that I mentioned before, this lending of the RECs to businesses, because actually what ended up happening is that the beneficiaries had to change the euros to the RECs, so which they did automatically, but still. So what happened, what we wanted was that for the city council to have an account in this system, but it was going to be to pay 25% of the subsidy, and this was impossible. I mean, this is one of the rigidities that the administration, the governmental entities have. They are very, they're really very, they don't have much room for changing procedures. They were working with an ERP, which is SAP, and SAP, I don't know, we call it SAP. And these kind of ERPs are very, very, difficult to change, very, very difficult to change. And it was a nightmare. We were discussing this for months, and then we ended up saying, okay, forget it. We'll manage to we make a procedure for which the user which has accepted the subsidy with these conditions, he will be charged with a credit card, not the credit card, debit card that the council provided to the beneficiaries to give them the payment, and we were able to charge this card, and the problem. But that was very complicated. And sorry, the last one was what was the last question?
That was whether the city of Barcelona accepted the REC in payment for local taxes.
No, not now, not yet. Which is very, it doesn't make much sense, but that's the way it is. They don't accept the payment yet of goods and services, taxes and public prices. No, they don't. Yeah, because they don't have an account in the system. Because if they did, they could have, but that was very complicated. So they didn't have an account, not in our system of virtual currency REC, but in the payment institutions that we use in euros. They couldn't have an account even there, which is absolutely, they're totally authorized legally to do it, but some, I don't know how to explain, because I don't even understand, but their regulations, their procedures is very strict, and they just couldn't do it.
It's really unfortunate, because that clearly puts a very tight constraint on the amount of circularity you can get within the system if the city council is not accepting it in payment.
Yeah,
we've
agreed.
Just come up to time, so I'd like to thank Susana once again for a really interesting and engaging presentation, and thank you to everyone in the audience for provoking such a lively and well-informed discussion. So please stay tuned for further events from the Circular Trade Analytics Group in the new year. And once again, if you are interested in joining, please send me a message in the chat. We'll be keeping the Zoom room open for free-form discussion. So if you would like to stay on, then please feel free to do so. Otherwise, I hope you will have a restful time over the Christmas holiday.